Welcome to this month's monthly booster call. This is Maureen Sullivan-Garles coming to you from Chicago, and I'm so excited to be with you today to talk about one of my favorite subjects in Strategic Coach. We're going to be going over the VOTA Formula, VOTA, and the Strategy Circle, which is the tool that supports that thinking. And it's a game changer in terms of what it's done in my life and what it's done to the entrepreneurs and their teams that I've worked with over the past several years, 21 to be exact. And I'm excited to bring that to those of you who this might be new to today. It can always refresh your focus as well. So for those of us who've been using this way of thinking, who've been using this tool for a long time, sometimes it can get stale even. So I want to refresh the focus around this as well. And I hear lots of things from entrepreneurs just in terms of their frustrations and some of the things that happen just as a result of growth and having an amazing vision, and some of the frustrations where they sometimes seem like they're the only ones that have the answer. And sometimes those of us as teams, and I'm guilty of that as well, I'm a team member, part of an incredibly growth-oriented entrepreneurial organization, and I can sometimes get stuck. I may go to certain people, whether it's Dan and Babs or other team leaders in our organization for help, where I know that if I sat down and I did the thinking myself, I'd at least be further down the road. And I know that that's one of the things that entrepreneurs tell me all the time is that they know that their teams have the answers, but sometimes they look to them as maybe it's the quick answer, or maybe it's hard because we can get stuck on the things that aren't working. So we're going to talk about that, and I'm going to arm you with this amazing way of thinking and strategy to help you through those obstacles, to help you to get unstuck. And it's not just for us, it's also for the people around us, whether it's our clients and customers, for our families. I can't tell you how many times I've heard stories of people who have used this with their kids, have used this with other people who just, kind of need to overcome something to get to the other side, or they have this amazing vision or a dream that it's just going to stay a dream if you don't take it a step further and actually figure out what are your roadblocks, what's standing in the way for you to actually achieve that dream and make it reality. And I love that our amazing Unique Edge coach, Kathy Davis, uses this in that Unique Edge program. That's the program where entrepreneurs send young people, whether it's their own children, their nieces and nephews, or neighbors, or whoever. And it's one of the tools that is the complete foundation around that program, because if we can teach young people to problem solve and to know that even when there's obstacles that may seem like I'm never going to figure this out, there are some ways. There are some ways to think through, to have those strategies. Sometimes you need help to figure those things out, but it's still this way of thinking, this VOTA, vision, opposition, transformation, action, the whole thing together. So we can be really amazing at one part of that. We can be more skilled at one part of that process, but it's bringing the whole process together. That's where the power is. That's where the impact is. So I'm going to just point out, you have 10 pages in the material for this month's call. So I want to make sure that you have those pages downloaded. In page 1, it's there for you to take notes, to kind of capture what you want to take away from this call, but of course you can write your notes anywhere. This just sort of guides some of the thinking, your brainstorming questions, maybe some of the things that you want to talk to your team about, talk with your entrepreneur about, maybe even things that you want to share with people outside of your company as well. So that's here for you. I'll go through each one of the pages that we have here, and it's going to just kind of guide us along. The first part of the call today is going to be really explaining that VOTA formula. What does it mean? This is the thinking. It's how our brain works, and it may be ingrained in some of us to think this way, but again, it doesn't mean that we always go to that place, but it's a reminder that it's there that we know what to do, we know how to think through this. And then the tool that goes with that thinking is the strategy circle. So we're going to go through both parts and really explain what that means and walk through an actual example of a strategy circle by the end of our call today. Hope that sounds great. I'm looking forward to going through this with you today. Okay, so in page 2 of your material, this is the VOTA formula. So let me just kind of explain what's here. First of all, I just want to say how much I love how this page looks. I love our team, our design team in-house creates the most beautiful materials, and I want to give a shout out to them. But the first part of the page up at the top, it really explains what VOTA means. And we can isolate each one of these skills, and they are skills. Every one of them is a skill. Some of us might be better at one skill than another skill. For example, vision, so the V, which is the first part of VOTA, the ability to imagine and commit to future results that do not yet exist. So how many of you can think of people who are just really amazing at creating that vision? There's people like that in our lives. We probably wouldn't be here on this call together today if we didn't have vision in our lives, whether it's, our entrepreneurs, other team members. It takes a vision to create an entrepreneurial organization. So it all starts there. We all experience that, but there's new ideas in growing entrepreneurial organizations. There's always new things. Some of the things that I really appreciate about working with entrepreneurs is just the fact that no matter what is going on, in the marketplace and our economy and the world, entrepreneurs are adaptable to whatever changes there are going on. So we have new challenges and changes happening all the time, and having a new vision, new ideas, new dream is all part of that. So some of the vision comes from a challenge that we need to have a vision to overcome that, but some of it just comes out of pure joy of wanting to do something new or try something new or take on a new opportunity. So it's a skill to see that vision and to see it crystal clear. But I also want to point out that it is a skill to see the opposition. So to actually know that there are obstacles, there are roadblocks in the way of achieving that vision, of getting to that vision. The ability to see all the obstacles that will prevent the future results. Just think about how important that is to know. So if you are the kind of person that you're a visionary, you see the vision, and you might be a person who you don't see the opposition or the obstacles or the roadblocks, it's not meant to be a negative thing to have that as, part of this skill set. It's the raw material that helps us to get to the vision. Many times people think of opposition as a negative and a downer, but it can seem that way if it's only in the form of complaints or no, we can't do that. But that's not what this is about. This is about this whole way of thinking together, this whole VOTA formula together. And when it works in sync together, it certainly doesn't feel like a complaint. It doesn't feel like somebody's poo-pooing your idea. But you have to pull it together. If it's isolated on its own, it might feel that way. So remember that if you are a person who can easily see the roadblocks, you have that way of thinking, that's great. That's a great skill to have, and it's definitely needed in order to find breakthroughs to get to that vision. Again, pointing out the vision, I work with people all the time who have just incredible big future goals. They see growth, they see things that maybe even in the world outside of Strategic Coach people don't see. I love the people that we work with because they have these big visions, but I do know that they don't always see, why is this not going to happen the way that I want it to? And it shouldn't stop you. That's not what this is about. This is more of creating the raw material that can get you to the end result and put it in action for you. So then what happens when you can isolate those obstacles or the opposition, you can find strategies, which is in the transformation. So it's a mindset. It's a mindset to be able to bring all of this together, no matter how you think naturally. So if you think naturally to the obstacles, which again, there's nothing wrong with that. In this model, it's actually needed. You can't achieve what you want without having that. And if you're that visionary person that has a hard time seeing that, again, it's about bringing all of it together. Transformation, this is the thing that probably has had the biggest impact on my own life. And the way that I can work together with people who do see the opposition. I'm sort of this can-do person. I can't help myself. It's just part of the makeup of who I am. I have this great belief that we can achieve anything. We need to have the raw material to be able to get to where we want to go. And, sometimes I believe and I don't see the obstacles. I will definitely admit that. And I know I need that. But the strategy circle and this VOTA formula has helped me to think through the opposition in a way that I didn't before. Because I think before seeing this model, before having this mindset, I thought of opposition as a negative thing, and I would just think of strategies that didn't really line up with, or they weren't the answer to the opposition. So that ability to see the obstacles as raw material to create the vision, you actually need to see the obstacles, right? So we have to have them. And then the fourth skill, and like I mentioned before, each part of VOTA is a specific skill. There's a skill in vision, there's a skill in opposition, a skill in transformation, and a skill in action. And you don't want to just stop after the transformation. You want to put it in motion. So, you can come together and have a great conversation around, we have this great vision, we see the obstacles or the opposition, we have done this transformational thinking, and then you stop. You have to put it into action, right? So it's the ability to make the transformation of obstacles into a visionary result. It's the doing. So we actually do want to do. We want to take action and put these things into play. Let me just read the quote here in the middle part of the page. Every individual is born with the potential for mastering VOTA. Again, going back to, this is why I love that in our Unique Edge program, Kathy makes this such an important part of the day with our young people, is because if you can solve problems, you really can do anything. The complete ability to increasingly visualize and achieve desirable future results that do not yet exist. So it's great to have a big dream, to have a vision, but if you don't think through this whole process, you don't think of that as the skill, it might stop there. Lots of people have dreams. Lots of people have visions, but you want to take it a step further into this VOTA formula. In order for this mastery to increase, however, each of the four VOTA abilities must be continually strengthened as a single integrated process. So it's that integration that I think is so important and so essential, that no matter where you may lean, to the vision, to the opposition, to the transformation, to the action, whatever maybe you naturally go to, it's the integration that really is where the impact is. The most creative individuals, those capable of always multiplying their existing resources and opportunities, are those who use VOTA as their central approach to all daily experiences. I just think that that's so amazing and powerful. And, we talk about how this way of thinking is, again, it's mindset. It is your choice to look at the world this way, to actually think of the possibilities, to not get stuck. And I know that there can be some really challenging things that happen, and we can think of all the reasons why something can't be achieved. But again, on the flip side, it's so important to know that that's not a negative thing unless you just isolate it that way, unless you just look at the negatives, the roadblocks, the challenges, the what is stopping us. And I want to talk about how VOTA translates into goals and results. So in the bottom part of page 2, again, we have this beautiful visual on the process of VOTA. So the vision actually is where you look at your goal. So visualize and write down the future results. So being really specific and measurable is also really important. So you're taking what's in your head and you're actually translating it into something that is real. So being specific, having numbers attached to it, having percentages, having things that you can actually measure is super important. The opposition, again, this is what's in the way. So it's the raw material for being able to come up with strategies. And it might also be things that maybe you don't have that capability yet. Maybe, if you're looking at your dream or your vision, there's a certain skill set or capability with technology that you don't have right now. So it's realizing that that's something that's lacking. It's not there. So we really need to figure out, okay, this is real, this exists. So we need to figure out something that we can do, which would be in the transformation. But we're isolating, again, the opposition. What are our capabilities, and is there something new that we need to learn? The transformation is where we focus on each one of the obstacles. So, one of the things I think is really interesting about this process is that when Dan created this formula, and when he created the strategy circle, it really was isolating each part. And there's something really amazing that happens in our brains when we really isolate the opposition or the obstacles before going to strategies. It actually can be really fun to just think through all of the things that maybe we need to learn, maybe we need a new capability, here's something that's standing in our way. And we do that before we go to transformation and the strategies. So focusing on each one of the obstacles again, and identify a strategy that will enable you to use the obstacle itself as the raw material. Again, this is not a bad thing. This is actually an amazing skill, and it will set you apart from your competition if you can think this way, if you can react and do things this way, because a lot of people in the world get stuck and they don't get unstuck. So this is a way to get unstuck and to help your clients and your customers to be unstuck as well. And it's also having a constant awareness and that you're in control of this. So you are in control of your thinking and your mindset. In the actions, this is where we're looking at the actual result, the doing. So continually translate your transforming obstacles into actions that will take you directly to the complete achievement of your visualized result. And I like to say that where this differs from the goal, you're getting even more specific here. You're getting more clear, and it happens partly because you've identified that first vision. And you start asking yourself, so, okay, how, who, what does this look like when it's done and done well? And this is really about taking your dream and turning it into reality. Let's jump over to page 3 in your material, Mastering the VOTA Formula. So I mentioned earlier that, I hear a lot of times from entrepreneurs that they are the go-to person. Let me just interrupt you. I just have this quick question. I know you have the answer. And it's true. A lot of times the entrepreneur does have the answer. They don't always have the answer, however. But we talk a lot about how interruptions or how that can stop the focus of that person. So even if it's not the entrepreneur, it's still that interruption that stops progress. So we like to create an idea around the strategy circle, so mastering this VOTA formula and using the strategy circle as a tool before that happens, or instead of that happening, even better. Trust me when I say this, as a team member working with an entrepreneur, you will be their hero if you can master this formula, this VOTA formula, and actually use the strategy circle to go to your entrepreneur, to actually talk through something that's going on that you probably know the answer to, or you probably have some really great ideas around how, even if it's the first 80%, if it's the first stab at, I have some ideas, let me bounce this off you, that's a lot better and more strategic than, I have a problem, do you have the answer? Again, this mastery, I know you can do this. Some of you are already doing this really great, and we're refreshing the focus on that. But I will tell you, too, this builds confidence and capability. So, if you are someone on the team who you're training new people on the team as well, teach them how to think this way. Teach them how to take this formula, to take their own skill to the next level. You want to become more and more valuable as an entrepreneurial team member. And entrepreneurs, I know, really count on us to be able to take care of all the day-to-day stuff, but also they want us to be able to work with them on those bigger visions, that we're aligned, that we're thinking the same, and this is a way that can really happen, and it can have a really strong impact on your teamwork and capability as well as your individual capability. So I always think of the strategy circle as being kind of the first stab at, here's my thinking. What do you think? Fill in the gaps for me. Just think about what a powerful conversation that is when you can do that. So in the Mastering the VOTA Formula, we're talking about here how VOTA is the basis of all human problem solving. Wow, that's such an incredible thing. I feel that also this is a skill that if we know how to do this, if we shift our mindset to just kind of believe, we can find the answers, we can figure things out, we can solve problems, we can have incredible breakthroughs. There's no telling what we can do and how we can get there. In this Mastering VOTA formula, we talk about 4 brain abilities. The first brain ability, and this is how the human mind works, the first brain ability is seeing the vision. So that's the V part of VOTA. Seeing a future that doesn't yet exist. I love that. And I see this happening all the time in our own organization, but I also see it with lots of entrepreneurs and their teams that I work with. So that brain ability happens first. The second brain ability is opposition. Don't let this stop you. So don't let this be the thing that just, okay, let's just stop here because I don't think that we can come up with anything that's going to overcome the opposition here. It's the raw material for all progress. And it actually is necessary in order for you to really see what's real. What are we up against? You want to know what those things are. You don't want to go in blind and have no idea what you're up against and just say, hey, I'm going to go do this. I have this vision. I'm just going to go do this. And one of the things that I hear Dan Sullivan talk about quite often is how successful people, successful entrepreneurs, have found a way to think this way, to have this kind of mindset, to have this skill of problem solving. You can be blindsided when you don't know what's standing in the way. And the other thing is, too, you can be stagnant if you don't overcome that opposition. So if you just let that stop all progress, okay, status quo, just, maintain. Maintaining may be something that actually doesn't take you to where you ever want to be. So there's not going to be growth by just staying in that place, too. Vision isn't just about change either. Vision is, sometimes it is change, but sometimes it is upping the game. Sometimes it's about being better. So again, that second brain ability, opposition, it is really, really important. And I can't say that enough. I say that partly from my own experience of being the person that I don't always see the things that are standing in the way, because I just have this really strong belief that we can do it. We can do anything. Well, yeah, I do believe that, because I look at the amazing team that we have. I look at the leaders of this organization, Dan Sullivan and Bab Smith, and I see how far we have come and how much we have accomplished. And I guess maybe that's part of the fuel that gives me the belief of what we can do next. But I really count on that way of thinking of this brain ability number 2 of knowing and not being blindsided. Brain ability number 3 is transformation. So from opposition to results. I've seen people get unstuck. I've been in meetings with team members where, we might be stuck on something and we start going through this process and the opposition all gets explained and talked about. Then all of a sudden people start, including the people who are the best at coming up with the obstacles, actually come up with strategies to their own obstacle. It is amazing when I see that happen. And it builds confidence. So I can't say enough how much this builds confidence. And when you're building confidence, you're building capability. It's that 4 C's formula that many of you are probably familiar with, but we have challenges. We have roadblocks, and we actually need to jump forward and jump into the thing that is kind of holding us back. It's our fear. So we might be in that courage part of the 4 C's. In that third brain ability and transformation, I have seen even people who are the best at coming up with the opposition actually come up with that transformational thinking. So coming up with strategies, and it is so empowering to those people. It's empowering to everybody, but specifically the people who don't naturally think that way, they have it. We all have this ability in our brains to be able to do this. And then the 4th brain ability is action. So it's steps to that envisioned future. We want to make sure that we also are keeping track of that we're aligned with what that means. So if you use this formula, if you use a strategy circle in a meeting, which I think is one of the best ways of using the strategy circle, is with a group of people. So it can absolutely be used individually on all kinds of different things, but when you can use it together with a team that's working on something, there's alignment, there's understanding. So have you ever been in a meeting where 2 people could be in the same meeting and you have a different idea of what happened in that meeting? This sort of takes away that from that piece, because you're aligned. You're aligned. It's actually in writing. It's written out. You've worked on it together. So that's really powerful and amazing. But I think one of the most important things here in this mastery is that multiplier problem solving. So it's seemingly unsolvable human problems will quickly be solved. And that happens when you have different brains together. So the brain abilities are in each of us. So those 4 brain abilities, they're there. We just have to exercise them sometimes, just like we do exercising our bodies. And we can exercise our brains by using this formula. We are all capable of this. Every person is. I see it all the time. That ownership also builds creativity. So some people feel, I talk to team members of entrepreneurs all the time who they don't feel like they're the creative one. They feel like they're the doer. They're just, I'm here to get things done. But it's amazing when you start to do this, that your creative juices flow. You actually feel like it is a creative process. And you get better and better at these brain abilities the more that you use this. That's the mastery part. The more that you exercise these parts of your brain, the better you actually get at thinking this way. Before we get into actually looking at the strategy circle, I wanted to talk a little bit about leadership versus management. So, again, kind of going back to what I hear from entrepreneurs a lot, and some of this is their own challenge of staying on their side of the line. So we talk about this in the context of self-managing company. To have a self-managing company, you need to have the make it up make it real, and make it recur people. So they're different people. Sometimes people overlap in different things, but the entrepreneur really, they're on that make it up space. They're leaders in the organization. We look up to them for their leadership. So that just reinforces the importance of our thinking is really important as team members. So mastering this VOTA formula, being able to think this way, continuing to exercise our brains this way, we can manage situations, we can manage people, we can manage processes, and it's that teamwork that's so important. A lot of entrepreneurs tell me that they want to be that leader, but they don't want to manage stuff. They don't want to manage people. They don't want to figure stuff out in that way. They just want to lead, and they want to continue to create. So if that's true for many entrepreneurs, our management as team members on stuff, and being problem solvers is so important. I can't tell you how many times that things get solved in this company that Dan and Babs have no idea were even a problem that existed. They didn't know it even happened because we've developed the skill to figure things out. Not to say that we don't ever need their leadership. We absolutely need their leadership. And we need to be leaders as well. But it's so powerful when you can actually use this skill to solve problems, to figure things out that your entrepreneur doesn't even know happened. They didn't even know that that was a problem. It's quite remarkable. And again, I see it all the time. You become heroes. And you're a hero to yourself, too, when you can do this. It's confidence building. I can't say that enough. I know I've mentioned that a lot on this call today, but it really does boost your confidence. You feel great about who you are and what you can contribute, the value that you're creating in your organization. Now I wanted to look at using the strategy circle to take that thinking. So those brain abilities that we all have, the thinking that we have in VOTA, and that VOTA formula and mastery, into the tool of the strategy circle. So just to give you a little background on the strategy circle, this is the very first tool that Dan Sullivan created as part of the strategic coach. He actually was using the strategy circle one-on-one with entrepreneurs before we even formed the company, where we had workshops. And that actual exercise looked a little bit different than it does today. People will ask me all the time, why is it called circle? Why is it a strategy circle? And I've heard Dan talk about this and explain this in different ways, but one of the things that always stands out to me is that it's a circle because at the core of it all is unique ability. So it's your unique ability as an entrepreneur, it's your unique ability as team members, it's your unique ability organization. So you have that always at the core. And if you actually look at the form itself, you do sort of fill it out in a circular manner, which it's not just, left to right. It sort of is, but it kind of goes in the circle. But it looked a little bit different in the early days of Dan's thinking and creativity around this thinking, but it always was VOTA. It always was using these brain abilities, and it's at the heart of who you are and what you're up to as an organization. I wanted to also share that in Dan's new program, the Game Changer Jump, that just launched last week, this tool, the strategy circle, was at the heart of the entire day. So, we didn't spend the whole day focused on the strategy circle, but it was an essential part and component of this workshop. And it was so amazing just to hear the whole group, so we had 33 people in the room, sharing what they saw as the obstacles to their own collaboration. So to reach the jump that they're looking for, the future, they're all game changers, but the next jump that they're looking to achieve, this was the raw material. So the entire group gave us the raw material of the roadblocks and the things standing in their way to getting to that end result, which is so powerful. And it's going to continue to be an important part of this program. It was really exciting to see these game-changing entrepreneurs, including Dan Sullivan being a game changer, coming up with this way of thinking. It was an incredible conversation. There was so much teamwork and alignment, which I know that sounds strange to think of a group of people with different backgrounds and different companies, but it had this feeling of all of us being together on something. And even though people are working on individual things, it was this commonality of we have some of these roadblocks to being able to jump to the next level. That was incredible. So I'm really excited to share that with you all as we're walking through this strategy circle, again, that supports that VOTA formula. So the strategy circle is one of our essential tools. It's one of the most important tools in entrepreneurial organizations because it allows us to solve any problem. There's no problem that we can't solve when we have this in our back pocket. Some of our coaches talk about the essential tools in the context of being on our tool belt. So there are things that are part of the strategic coach that are the things that are always on hand, the way that we think about things. There's different versions of the strategy circle, just in the sense that there's the big fold-out form that you get at your workshop. The one that we have for you today is just on this 8.5 by 11 page, but then we have a short version that's like 5 by 7 page card. It's not about the size of the page. It's not about which form you use. It's the thinking that you use to get to where you want to be. One of the things that we have in your materials here to help set up the strategy circle is this vision brainstorming guide, which I love. Some people, you don't need to do this brainstorming, and some people find that this is really useful just to get more clear on what it is that you actually are writing down as your goal. But first, I'm going to go through for you the definitions. So the goal is a specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and trackable objective that you want to have happen. So you can have a dream, a vision, you can state something. It might sound a little bit fluffy when you don't get more specific and clear, and the strategy circle kind of forces you to do that. After you've identified your goal, you want to get a little bit more specific into the results. So it's the impact of reaching the goal, what it looks like when it's done and done well. It should kind of be like a checklist, like, yes, we did that. Yes, we've achieved that. You don't want it to be, oh, I want to feel great. That's not very specific or measurable, right? So you want to say, we want to increase company engagement, for example. It's something that's measurable. Then obstacles, again, we want to take this really seriously. A mental or physical barrier in the way of achieving the goal. It's very important. Again, I cannot stress the importance enough of having those obstacles and realizing what's there. Then we can get to strategies. So after we've completely done that brain dump of obstacles, we know everything and more that could be possibly standing in our way. What can we do to overcome those obstacles? This is so fun. I love to isolate each one of those obstacles and come up with strategies, especially when I'm with a group. I kind of feed off from other people when we're able to come together and work through a strategy circle in this way. And then there's a project planner. So some people use this actual tool of the project planner, and the big fold-out strategy circle is the backside of the strategy circle. I remember a couple of years ago, one of our clients who definitely had been in the program over 10 years. I can't remember exactly how long. They didn't realize there was a backside to the strategy circle. So what happens with action when you don't have the backside to the strategy circle? We need to put the plan into action. And that's what the project planner allows us to do. Whether you use this specific tool or you have another project management software, some people use Trello to track the actual plan, the important thing is that it actually does get put into action. And why do we use this? So why do we use the strategy circle? When there's complexity in here, at times the complexity of these ideas can be overwhelming. you ever feel that way? Like sometimes even just one of the obstacles can be its own strategy circle. That's actually happened before, that, when you start going down this path, sometimes the complexity can be really big. So it might be more than one strategy circle. And that's okay too. You would never know that if you didn't go down this road. If you didn't start, you wouldn't know that, oh, I didn't realize that this is much bigger. But don't let it overwhelm you in the sense that it stops you. Again, let it be that, all right, so this is a little bit bigger than what we thought. It's going to take more than one strategy circle to get to where we want to be, but we're going to get there. How to use the strategy circle. So there's lots of different ways to use it. When you feel overwhelmed by your thinking, use the strategy circle. It's a great communication tool. So kind of going back to what I was talking about in relation to not just allowing your entrepreneur to be the person who you go to for the answers. Let this be a communication tool that, hey, this is going on, or I have this idea. I've thought this through. What do you think? That can be a really great way to start a conversation. It's a great communication tool. Sometimes it is enlightening to know certain things that are going on. Use it to improve your creativity at work in situations that involve strategic planning, problem solving, developing new capabilities, cleaning up messes, thinking through opportunities, and managing projects. Wow, okay, so what is there that we wouldn't use a strategy circle on? It's kind of amazing. There are endless ways to use it. We still need to get stuff done, right? So we don't want to spend all of our days doing strategy circles, but it's part of our tool belt. It's there for us, so we need it. And you might not do a strategy circle even every week, but I almost guarantee you're going to do one at least once a month. It's for some of those bigger things. And then we get in motion, right? We take action on things, we do things, we get things done, and we have another idea, or we have another project to plan, or we have another mess to clean up, and it's there for us. We use it to brainstorm solutions to client problems. So, this isn't about taking the strategy circle and coaching people on, there's this idea. But if you're with somebody who's getting stuck on something, you can help them because they have these forebrain abilities as well. You can help them to get unstuck by going through this process with them. Sit down and do a strategy circle with them to help them to see how they can get to where they want to be. You help to solve people's problems. You are the answer to people's prayers. You are the people that continue to move things forward in the world. This is the amazing thing about entrepreneurs and their organizations, is that we continue to move things forward. And it's actually why Dan Sullivan, many years ago, decided these are the kind of people I want to work with. Use it for free days. It's a great idea to figure out, first of all, planning a vacation. Sometimes if you're planning a vacation with other people, whether it's family or friends, you might not be on the same page of what you actually want to do. So a strategy circle is actually a great way to create a plan around what that vacation looks like. So when you get back home from that vacation, what did that look like? Can we check those things off from the result of our strategy circle? It also brings up, again, not everybody has the same idea of what a vacation looks like. So if, for example, I was planning a vacation with my family, my kids might have a different idea of what they want than my husband and I, but it'd be great if we were aligned and on the same page. And then going into that vacation, we kind of know what to expect and what we can count on from each other. Just to kind of share a personal story, my husband and I used a strategy circle when we bought our first house. It was amazing. And you know what was so interesting, too, in that process is there were specific things that we were moving out of the city. We lived in Chicago. We lived in the city. We were looking to buy a house, have a little yard. We had a big dog in a small townhouse in the city. We wanted a yard for our dog. We had a new baby. We wanted a yard for our daughter. And we wanted to be in an amazing community. So when we started to think about the things that we were up against, the obstacles, we got to be on the same page. My husband and I got really clear, but that vision of what we thought, so how we pictured this house, we had a really clear picture. When we were aligned on our vision of what it looked like, this may sound funny to some of you in different parts of the world, we really wanted to have a garage to park our car in. So we got the garage. But there were other things that just became really important to us, and we checked every one of those things off. So when we bought that house, every single one of the things that we identified in our result that was crystal clear to us, we got it. We got exactly what we wanted. You know, we're still in that house, and it's an incredible community, and we're so happy that we're there. But it's pretty amazing. This is not just a tool for a work problem or a project that you're working on in your job. It's also something that you can use in your life. Use it to increase the learning and growth potential of your team members by filling it out together. Now, I know I've mentioned that several times. It also can be used to help with conflict. So if there's something that's not working, it can actually be a conflict resolution tool as well. I'm going to walk you through the sample copy that we have for you in the material. So, if you look at that brainstorming page, we got lots of different ideas around this specific project of growing our profit 10 times. So that's the project identified in A. And if you can see, there's actually a flow. It does sort of look like a circle. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, sort of a circle. It flows this way, and you do actually want to fill it out in this way. It's, again, we're going with those brain abilities and really isolating each one of them to kind of get to that end result and the payoff. The goal, so see how it gets a little bit specific. So growing our profit 10 times while growing revenue 5 times. We're putting down today's date and then our target date. So in this example, it's 3 years from today. So we want to grow our profit 10 times while growing revenue 5 times over the next 3 years. The payoff or the results, you'll see as I walk through this how much more specific it gets from that goal. And this is what you can check off when that 3-year time comes up and you've achieved this and you're doing high fives and having a big party to celebrate that you've grown your profit 10 times while growing revenue 5 times. So what this means in the result, we're doubling our profit 10 times our best profit year while growing our revenue only 5 times. I'm 80% in my unique ability. So where are you right now? You want to know what that measurement is today. So in both of those things, actually. So what is your profit today? What's your revenue today? How much time are you spending in your unique ability today? If you want to be to 80%, how much of a jump is that for you? The team is operating 80% in their unique abilities. So again, you want to see where are we at today. You want to make sure that you have those measurements so that you can see where the jumps are. Effective retention plans in place to attract and keep great talent. Again, you want to look at what does that look like today? What's going on today, and what's our plan for what we want that to look like 3 years from now? We're recognized as one of the top 5 firms by our industry association. Maybe there's a trade magazine where you get recognized for that. Maybe there's an association, an organization. There's all kinds of different rewards and recognitions that people receive in their industries. So have that as a measurement. You don't have that right now. You haven't been recognized by that right now. And actually, maybe how are you going to be communicating that to your industry as well? So you might have a plan in place for doing that. It's a pretty great picture, looking at what that result looks like and imagining yourself in that future company 3 years from today. But we need to come back to today. We need to look at what are the potential roadblocks or obstacles that are going to stop us from getting there. Our cost structure is too high. Too many high maintenance, low revenue clients. Some team members aren't engaged. No retention strategy in place. We don't have enough new high quality clients. Missing our high level, high priced offering. Don't have a media plan or a strategy. CRM system isn't scalable. We're outgrowing our space. Need to go international. Now, I imagine if this was your goal, if this was actually your strategy circle, and you had this vision, and even if you identified this result, I guarantee you that you probably needed the thinking from other people to be able to come up with these obstacles. And that's why I think that something like this, something that's big like this, you really need to come together. You really need to talk this through together to be able to get really clear on those obstacles. Now, here's where I think the power is. Isolating each one of those obstacles into a strategy. It's sometimes hard coming up with the obstacles, but they're there, and then you can go, all right, now we know we have the raw material. Let's figure out what we can do to get there, because I'm excited about getting there. I want to get to this profit of 10 times and revenue 5 times. So our cost structure too high. The strategy here, work with Tim H. on our business model. Tim is the person who specializes in cost structure, right? So it's sometimes you'll know a specific person who can help you, but sometimes you have to find who that person is to come up with that strategy. Too many high maintenance, low revenue clients, automate how we deal with them or refer them on. So we talk about that a lot in Strategic Coach overall. So looking at making sure that you are always working with your A and B level clients. For some people, it's just A clients. And the clients who are eating up a lot of our time, but we're not getting that return on our investment from, sometimes we need to refer them on to somebody else, or sometimes we need a process for being able to just automate certain things so that we can spend the time on those A-level clients. Some team members aren't engaged. Discuss our 10 times future. They opt in or they opt out. Sometimes people move on. So it's important to get really clear on where you're going, communicating your future vision, and making sure that people align with that vision. And it's okay if they don't, but it gives them at least the way out as well, which I think is really amazing. Shannon Waller talks a lot about that in the Multiplication by Subtraction book. No retention strategy in place. Work with Tom Miller. Tom is actually a client of Strategic Coach to design a strategy around that. And we actually did work with Tom around that to help us with our own compensation and come up with some really great strategies around that. Again, sometimes you know the specific person or answer. Sometimes it's we need to do some research here. We need to find somebody who can help us with this. Don't have enough new high-quality clients. Work with our top 20 clients. Create advisory club and referrals. So how do you get more of those top 20 kinds of clients? Missing high-level, high-priced offerings. Based on advisory clubs, DOS, so dangers, opportunities, and strengths, create a new program. So dangers, opportunities, strengths, so that knowing the DOS of your clients is so incredibly important. Actually asking them the questions. What are your biggest dangers? What opportunities do you need to capitalize on? What are your strengths? It's such important information for your growth. Like, you really want to know the DOS of your clients, and you only know that by asking them the question. Don't have a media plan or strategy. Hire a PR firm to handle measure results. CRM system isn't scalable. We'll find a new one. And I know it may sound silly, but you really do need to identify, even if it seems like this is a big thing. That's a strategy circle in itself, creating a new CRM system. But you want to identify that, because that might be the thing that holds you back from that scalability of really being able to do the things that you want to do to have that multiplier effect. We're outgrowing our space. So having an obstacle like this, again, see how some of these things can be their own strategy circle, actually figuring out the new space. But you don't know this until you start to identify these things. Find a new space that can accommodate events. And then the last obstacle, need to go international. Partner with top firms in 3 other countries. So when you look at this sample copy, and this may not be your thing that you're focused on, but if you just look at the sample copy, this is a pretty big goal. It's a big goal. I love that some of these obstacles and strategies can actually become their own strategy circle, and you can identify who's going to lead that project. But you have to start from this place. So I'm glad we used this as an example, this kind of big idea as a place to share with you so that you can see, on a smaller scale, let's say that you're just dealing with your space, your current space. We've outgrown our space. And you're going to sit down and do a strategy circle on that. You can get really specific as to what that looks like. Just like in the example that I shared when my husband and I did a strategy circle on buying our first home. We got really specific on what that space looked like. And I wanted to point out, on page 9 of the material, you have the project planner. It's there. It exists. It's on the back side of the fold-out strategy circle. But I know that many of you use project management software. Some people use Trello. There's different ways that you can track this. The important thing is that you take action, you track your progress, and you continue to share your wins with each other. This is an incredible way to communicate. It's a great way to keep people aligned on the same page, informed. There's no excuse for not knowing what's going on when you have this project plan in place. No matter what you use to keep track of this, it exists. It's there. And before we wrap up the call today, I just wanted to point out on page 10, there's some examples of some questions that we commonly hear and some ways to use the strategy circle. I'm not going to read through all of the questions. They're there for you, but I do want to just highlight here the specific uses for strategy circle. And there's lots more than what's listed here, but I just wanted to show you how there's just different ways, whether it's using it in the business, personally. So planning a trip, we did mention that a little bit in free days, moving your house or office, thinking through a decision. This is incredible. So again, one of the reasons why we love to use the strategy circle with young people is they have some big decisions. Some of it is what I want to study in school, or what's my career path, what is my future, what does that look like, what classes to take. And you really can use this thinking, even with people who are younger than our unique edge age people. Like my children are 11 and 13. They get this. They understand. And, I may communicate it in a little bit different way, but it still goes back to that VOTA mastery, that way of thinking that you have this vision, let's figure out how to get there by thinking about the opposition, by transforming that, and by coming up with an action plan. Planning an event, reorganizing a team, resolving a client issue, planning free days, delegating a project or activity, cleaning up a mess. We all have messes. There's stuff. So this is a great way of doing that. And you might sometimes need the shortened version of the strategy circle at times. You don't always need the full fold out or that 8.5 by 11 page. The 5 by 7 strategic snapshot might be just what you need to capture your thinking there and to be able to take action and actually even communicate it to somebody else. Resolving a family issue, hiring and training, thinking through a new opportunity, improving client service, reaching company goals. I mean, hello, that's a big one. And it's something that we use all the time. So we have our big company goals, but then, I'm part of our program advisor team. We are focused on renewals, keeping people in the program, getting people who've dropped out of the program back in the program. So we have our own goals that line up with the company goals. Every year, we're looking at doing a strategy circle to make sure that we are aligned with those company goals, but that we're going to really rock it with our own goals. Before saying goodbye for today, I wanted to share a quote that I was just talking to a client earlier this week, and she had shared, because she was kind of feeling stuck on some things, that something that someone on her team, actually. So this is an entrepreneur who shared a quote that she thinks of all the time from one of her team members. Here's the quote: "No problem stays in your life forever." And I don't want you to think of Strategy Circle as just problem, but it's a problem-solving tool, whether it's something that's a big problem, little problem, or something that is really frustrating or something that just is there. It's something that exists. But no problem stays in your life forever. I just love that. And this particular client shared that with me because it's now just ingrained in her thinking. And I want this VOTA formula to be ingrained in your thinking like it is for me. And again, for those of you who you're familiar with the tool and the concept, I want you to refresh your focus around this. Are there new ways that you can use it? Is there somebody in your life who needs this way of thinking? With the VOTA formula, I really believe with this mastery, we can transform a lot of things. And just imagine the impact that that has in your life, the lives of the people around you, and the impact on the world. One little bit at a time, one strategy circle at a time. We are unstoppable. Thank you so much for being with me today. And if you have any questions at all from our call today, you can email questions@strategiccoach.com. Thanks again. Have a great day.